One thing I found is that everyone has a story. And sometimes what they need is for someone just to listen. Well, hey guys, it's Ashley. And today we are welcoming back WayCan. Now they were here last time, and we learned that through a single email, a group was started. And in full disclosure, I joined that group, but there's a lot of changes that have happened through their idea to be the change. So let's go meet them and find out what has happened since we last talked. Who do you think that we should meet next? So I had you guys on my show sometime last year. You weren't on.
Right.
But we don't know who you are yet, so we're not going to think that you're here. But Caroline, I know that you were here, and we talked about how you sent an email. And somehow from this little email, a whole bunch of change happened and a group formed. Has anything happened, and who were these people with you?
Awesome, yeah. So my name's Caroline Higgins.
I'm Allison Cates.
I am Doug Levine.
And we are all now executive board members of WayCan. So WayCan stands for Wayland Community Action Network. And since I sent that email and we formed a group, we've actually become a nonprofit.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Is that new?
It is new, yeah, just in the last 3 or 4 months. And so, you know, the work that we started doing as a result of some of the anti-Semitic incidents in town sort of propelled us forward to want to keep creating change. And so I'll let Allison talk more about what we did, but essentially what we realized was that this all really comes back to trying to create a greater sense of connection and belonging in town. And so once we got nonprofit status, we really kind of wanted to zero in on what it is we want to do and who we are. And so I think that the biggest shift since last time we talked is that we have really come to understand that we want to be proactive, not just reactive, because a lot of the events we've run came from an incident that happened in town. But I think now what we're hoping to do is proactively create a greater sense of connection and belonging in town. Just because it's what's right and good for people, but also because hopefully it prevents events like that from happening in the future. So that's where we're at right now.
I was going to say education could help create an environment where events don't happen in the first place. So it's kind of one perpetuates the other, but in a positive way.
I hope so, yeah.
What has been done?
So since our group was formed in, I guess, November or so of 2023, the first program that we did last year was actually facilitated by a Wayland mom and a colleague of hers from the Sustained Dialogue Institute. And they led a workshop about having meaningful dialogue, not just conversation, but really dialoguing and listening to each other.
Getting to the root of things and not just listening, but hearing everyone's story.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And trying to understand another person's perspective and why that perspective, how that perspective might shape someone's beliefs and someone's life. And
in someone's home. If you're looking to belong somewhere, understanding where your neighbor's coming from kind of helps with that.
For sure, for sure. And then from there, we brought in another speaker, Danica Manso-Brown, and she facilitated a couple of workshops for us, one for elementary age parents and one for middle and high school age parents, on how to talk to our kids about discrimination and hate. Also really valuable and timely presentations. Last spring, another Wayland resident, Eden Renee Hayes, facilitated a discussion following the movie. We showed the movie Origin, which follows the life of Isabel Wilkerson, the author of the book Cast. And then Eden Renee facilitated a discussion afterwards about the different themes in the movie: racism, anti-Semitism.
And that was open to the town and attended by folks in the town.
It was actually attended not just by residents, but also some town leaders,
Nice.
school administrators, as well as parents.
So a newly formed group has gotten the buy-in from those that are stakeholders in the town,
Yep.
which
So-
might bring in you by chance.
Maybe so.
You might be a stakeholder somewhere.
Yes, so I do serve on the select board, but I wanted to get involved because I think that the essence of community building is with groups like this and bringing people together every chance that we could get. And other towns, we've learned, have been doing this for a number of years. We've connected with a group in Natick called Natick is United. There's a group in Wellesley that's been around for a long time called World of Wellesley. And I think it's so important outside of our local government to have groups like this that can act nimbly, bring people together when there's a need quickly. And I think that with so much division going on in our world right now, at seemingly every level from the top on down, it's more important than ever to have these community building organizations. And so just to add along to that, I'm so glad we have a space, for example, now in town with our community center that's going to be used more and more for people to come together for these types of purposes. So I'm very heartened that this group exists now.
The groups that you mentioned, obviously they've been around longer. Have they made a difference in their towns and communities that can be proven?
So when I'm learning, as we're starting to get to know those groups a little bit and connecting with those leaders, is you talked about buy-in in the beginning. Because they've been around now for several years, they've almost become part of a fabric of Natick and Wellesley. And so there's tremendous buy-in there. They have very professional websites that folks can look at, and I think that they can serve as a model for us. Now, obviously, each town and each community is unique, but because they have gone before and have been around for a number of years, I think they add so much to those two towns, and I think WayCan will do the same here.
And speaking of buy-in, we just recently over the summer hosted a potluck with invited town leaders from various groups. We had select board members, we had school committee members, we had someone from the WCPA, PTO, a whole bunch of different organizations in town, and people came together. It was hosted in someone's home. It was a summer barbecue theme. Everybody brought something to share, and it was, from what I understand, incredibly engaging conversation. People really felt a sense of community sitting around the table together.
It seems like the theme here is communication. I've noticed, we all are right here. I mean, I'm guilty of it too with my phone of doing this. We don't look up and we don't see one another, but then when something happens, we are quick to have an opinion on something that we might not have even seen. So you guys are trying to create not only this community, create a sense of belonging, but then say, hey, let's talk to one another.
And I think we have a tendency to hear but not really listen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, the first event that I didn't even think was going to be an event was a community conversation. We hosted another community conversation last year. I think our hope is to do the same this year and sort of have an annual, almost like taking a pulse of the community to see where people are feeling in terms of connection and belonging and how we can do better as a town. And I think that the community potlucks that we kicked off this summer are a great way of making that smaller, because not everyone is comfortable speaking in a room of 75 people about their experiences. But these potlucks are an opportunity to meet people who maybe are your neighbors but are strangers, and actually try to get to know something real about them, make a connection, because I think that just goes such a long way. And one of the things I wanted to mention was that Wayland Fest or Wayland Festival is happening on October 4th. Thank you. And so we're going to have a table there. And one of the things we are hoping to do is have what we're jokingly calling mini potluck conversations. So there will be no food, sadly, at this table, but it's an opportunity for people to sit down and sign up for just a very brief facilitated conversation to meet somebody new.
It's like speed dating.
Exactly.
Speed community building.
Exactly. Speed community building. I like that.
Well, let's workshop the name right now.
Yeah. That's actually a great idea.
But the feedback that we got from this potluck was that 100% of the people who responded to our request for feedback felt more connected.
You never
after
see
they left that
100% of anybody agreeing.
Let's enjoy this
Yep.
brief moment of time.
Yep, that's a win for us, for sure.
I think the key is because with the advent of Facebook, and in Wayland it's our community forum page, and it has over 4,000 residents who are members, and that has become almost our de facto public square. I think it's so key to pull people together in person, to have these in-person connections and conversations versus being a keyboard warrior when something happens.
Well, how in the world do you create an environment to where people feel safe enough to do it? Because our community members are watching this and maybe they want to talk about something that has nothing to do with the terrain or speed or traffic directions. And how do they know that if they come, people will listen?
So we've also held, over the course of the year or so, 3 or 4 belonging conversations. And so that's a great way for people to show up. It's a small group. They've had some coffees, they did a dinner. Sometimes they're structured, sometimes it's just open conversation. So that would be a really nice way for people to get a better sense of what Wayland Can is all about and to share thoughts, opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to feel like people have your back in your home and in your community. And so I think the easiest way to build trust is to sort of start small. It involves vulnerability, right? And so I do think that at a lot of our events, people have taken risks and been vulnerable. And so we do set ground rules and norms, which I think is important for difficult conversations. But I was just thinking the other day about how our kids have to go into a new classroom every single year and start over, and we put them in these environments all the time where they have to keep creating new communities and be risk takers and share their stories. Even in a small town like Wayland, there's always going to be someone new in the mix. And I was thinking about how as adults, I think you kind of lose some of those skills. And how even just the silly things like the prompts, we used prompts at that community potluck. And this was town leaders who are people who are generally really comfortable, right, speaking in public, but there's something nice about maybe going back to a school model sometimes where it's like, here's a prompt to ground that conversation with you and this person you've never spoken to. And I started to think, like, grown-ups don't have enough opportunities like that.
I've said that many times because I will watch my child, and it doesn't matter if my child knows the kid that might be around them. They figure it out.
Right.
We somehow struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, we say at the playground, just go make a new friend. Can you imagine if your kid said that to Dad, come on.
Yeah.
Just go make a new friend.
And before you know it, they're invited to your house and you're like, I don't know who you are, but maybe that can be solved here. Because it does take a massive level of vulnerability to say, I'm scared. You might be a minority in your religion, your race, your sexuality, your all of the isms that could be there. And to say, I don't know if there's anybody like me here. And how do I approach someone and say, hey, am I good? Can I tell you my experience and be heard? That's scary.
It's scary.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up such an important point, because I think, one of the things that we have heard is Wayland Can really for everybody? And our deepest hope is that, it really is for everybody, and that there are going to be different perspectives. Things aren't always easy. People haven't had the same lived experiences, but what I have found is the more you hear people's stories, the more you find there's so much in common. That the people who feel the most isolated, somebody else is feeling the exact same way, and they might live next door to you, So I guess that is one thing I really want to say. Like, we really do want to be
And I think that the more proactive types of events we can do, the more we can show people that we are here for everyone. We're not just reacting to a specific event that might have targeted a certain group of people in town, but we're doing these things because we want everyone to feel safe and everyone to feel like they have a place here.
And I also feel like that if another group of people is targeted, that WayCan would also stand up and say, this is not okay in our town.
100%.
Right.
And that's important for the town to know too.
But yeah, I think that one of the things that I also want to say is that we want to be allies, but we also want to be accomplices. We want to stand up with our neighbors who are experiencing things and say, I am here for you. I am here for you. Because that's how real community is created.
Is there anything besides the festival, any grander plans that you might have that you could share?
Well, we had our initial executive board meeting over the summer, and we're meeting again shortly to kind of map this out, because I think one thing that's very helpful is thinking about events in advance, that how we want to pull people together, and you put it on people's radars, because as we all know, people are pulled in a million different directions here all the time. And so I think what's important is what both Allison and Caroline are saying. I think it's critical to have smaller events where people could feel more comfortable being vulnerable, but also these larger size events as well. Even the first event where we had this community conversation after an anti-Semitic incident, I wanted to mention that I was really moved about how vulnerable people were right off the bat, where I think a vast majority of those folks didn't know a vast majority of the other folks. And yet they still understood the importance of, I'm going to just step out and share. And I think it was a very powerful evening. And I'm so glad that the efforts continued.
We're hoping to do some more potlucks. We're about to be kicking off a fundraising campaign for a mural that will be on the wall of the town pool, where there have been a few different hate crimes take place. So we're partnering with Jeannie Downs at the Wayland Town Pool and a couple of other folks in town to fundraise for that. And we lots of other big plans.
For those in town that may not even know who WayCan is, do you have a quick introduction? What would you say now is who WayCan is?
I would say WayCan is a group of people who are committed to bringing a greater sense of connection and belonging to the community. And I don't know if anybody has seen it, but if you drive by Cochituate Field, there's a bunch of orange cups that say, "Be the change." And our slogan is "Be the change." And the reason our slogan is that is because all of this happened because individual people stepped up. We formed a community and we said, these are things we want to see happen. These are programs we want to see, educational programs we want to see brought to the community. And so collectively, we were actually able to create some change. And I think that I want people to know we have an advisory board and that we're always looking for various perspectives. Nothing changes if it's an echo chamber, right? We need diversity of perspective. And so I want people to know about the advisory board. But I think that we're hoping that we empower other people in town, even if they don't have any interest in WayCan, to understand that you can create real change in the community you live in.
Is there something that I haven't asked that you would like to just say or express?
One thing that I wanted to mention that I think is the beginning of a helpful symbiotic relationship is we also have a Human Rights, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in town, which would seem to have a significant overlapping mission with WayCan, but I think so far these two groups have coordinated well, and I think that they both serve a purpose and should both continue to exist, and are both very useful for our community. So I wanted to put in a plug for them as well.
Being the change and having equal rights and including everyone seems to be something that all of us would have a stake in.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the one thing I would add is that before Caroline's email, I didn't know Caroline. She didn't know me. I knew of Doug, but I didn't really know Doug. And so this group has, I think, brought people together who might not otherwise have had a reason to connect. And as Caroline said, we're really just a group of residents who are committed to making Wayland a better place. And it's amazing what happens when folks like that come together.
So your lived experience is literally the group creating a sense of belonging for you.
I never thought about that.
I didn't either, but yeah,
actually,
that's-
I mean, it is so. I didn't know. And
Yeah.
and here we all are, and we know each other.
I didn't know you before we interviewed the last time.
Right.
So-
It's just so interesting to think about that. Yeah, my circle has widened in such a great way as a result of this.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
I guess I would just say I have a very deep love for Wayland. I grew up in Miami Beach, and it
Which
was
is definitely not
like another planet. And I really, maybe I'm biased, but I think this town is very special. And I've just met so many people who are incredibly invested in it in lots of different ways. And so I guess I just want to say that this place means a whole lot to me, and I think that there are really wonderful humans all around us. One additional thing I guess I'll say is that we did start a campaign on social media called Humans of Wayland, where we interview people around town, and it's just a very casual, like, get to know you and make people feel more connected if they see, wow, you know, I summered at that lake too, or I too have children and feel worried about their future, or whatever it is that they're sharing, you know. So yeah, I guess that would be it for me. I really love this place, and I want to keep it great, and I think it can always be better. And I think that people standing up together as opposed to alone makes everything better.
Be the change. It's kind of broad if you think about it. But maybe that's the point. Because change could mean something completely different to me and to you. Being the change could mean that I'm making a difference in my home. Maybe you're making a difference in our community, our neighborhood, maybe within ourselves. Maybe the point is to ensure that all of us together create an environment to where we simply feel like this is our home. I think that's an idea that we can get behind. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my channel. And who do you think that we should meet?